Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to do a very simple, very in-depth though, 101 tutorial on just the base. Like how you get your foundation, concealer, powder, bronzer, contour. Like that's it. I know that sounds like a lot, but I really wanted to focus on the base because so often, not just me, a lot of people on YouTube will just dive right in to the eyes, the lip, and the highlight, because that seems to be the stuff that changes. Everybody kind of does their foundation their own way, and they don't really change it up too much. So I wanted to go into the why I did things, not just this is where I put it and here's how I do it. So if that's something you're into, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting, and let's get right into it. So for primer today, I'm gonna start as always with two different primers. The first one I use is always pore filling because I have a lot of texture and I have a lot of pores. So the first thing is just for mattifying, and then over the whole face, I will usually take one that is a little bit more of like a gel, and that's for prolonging the makeup. So my current favorite combination that I seem to be doing a lot is for pore minimizing. I use the Clean Slate Timeless Pore Perfecting Primer from Tarte, and it's a putty. I just take a little bit and work that just into the areas where I find I have that extra texture or extra pores, which is the forehead and around the nose. And for prolonging the makeup and having things stay on a little bit longer, I'll be taking the J1 Jelly Pack today. And now this is a very sticky and very gel-like. And I just take that starting on the perimeters of the face, I'll dot that, and then I will work that towards the center so that the whole face gets this nice tightening and smoothing, kind of sticky base, and this will help everything just last all day long. For foundation, you could take whatever you like. I am much more oily, so I like foundations that are a little bit more matte. So lately I've been mixing these two. It is the Dior Forever Skin and the Fenty Beauty. Dior, I'm in shade 22, and in the Fenty, I'm in shade 200. Now, the reason I mix these two specifically is that the Dior is more of a satin finish. It's not super matte, but I love how it looks and wears throughout the day. The Fenty is super matte. Like, it almost looks dry, even on oily skin. So by mixing these two together, I get kind of the best of both worlds, and it's the best of any finish. So just right on the Beauty Blender, I will take one pump of each to start, and I'll probably end up going in for one more pump of each, and I'll just dot that around the face and start working it in. So once you have the base on, it is gonna look a little bit light just because when you even out all of your skin tone, you'll notice like I have hyperpigmentation, so it's very red. So once I take all the redness out and all the dark areas, it really just looks white. So this is actually true to my neck. So it does match and it will warm up a little bit, but once you put in bronzer and everything else, it will look good. For concealer, this is really where you want to brighten and create some definition. So I'm using the Tarte Shape Tape as always, and what this is gonna do is this is just going to allow you to further conceal, so like these under eyes, which are very red and, you know, clearly I don't sleep at night, this is just going to allow some brightness to the face. And I take that just on the high points of the face. So what that means is when you look at your face, when there's nothing on it, these are the places where it's naturally a little bit lighter. And what this does is, like if you look where it is now, the strategic placement is going to allow it so that this is where the light hits your face. So I'm also, like once this gets blended out, we'll be taking contour in the other areas just to set some depth. So that very natural, once we added all that whiteness, we kind of want to cancel that out. So I'm just gonna blend that in just like I did the foundation. And now I like to start in the center of the face because this concealer does dry a little bit. And as you blend it, what I find, now I do start in the center of the face because it does dry a little and I want to get this stuff looking really airbrushed, and then under the eye I want to let it get a little bit drier because then it's going to add a little more coverage. Once, you'll notice in the center of the face, it blends out a lot more seamless when you don't have that extra time to dry. So by letting the concealer dry just a little bit, it really helps you to blend it out, and it keeps a little bit more of that brightness. And now that we have all that brightness, you'll notice that in the center of the face and just under the eyes, this T is a little bit brighter. Now the purpose of that is these are the spots that we want to emphasize. We'll go in later and we will, again, like I said, darken everywhere else just to make it look a little bit more natural. But you can already see like the shadow under the cheekbone and the shadow under the hairline. Now it's gonna be there, so we're just gonna emphasize that a bit more. But we have to set this down. So today I am using the Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal Setting Powder. You can use whatever powder you like. I like this one because it is very finely milled and it's not stark white. So what I'm gonna do is just using that damp sponge, I'm going to press that everywhere I use the concealer, and we're gonna bake that. Now the purpose of baking is that this is going to kind of trap the foundation and concealer with the powder and then my skin. And the warmth of my skin is gonna kind of cook the makeup. And the purpose of that is it's going to prolong everything. So rather than, you put on foundation and then, maybe an hour later, you already feel that it's starting to wear off and you feel like it's starting to kind of sweat off the face. This is gonna have it all kind of meld together and stay. And once you have your bake on, which is all this powder, you wanna sit there for 5-10 minutes and let it all kind of work together before you brush it off. So I'm just going to let this bake and I'll be right back. Now I did go in and add a little bit more just because I didn't realize exactly how little I put on. And when you dust it on, I don't put it everywhere because we really just want to use this to emphasize the spaces where we put the concealer. I'll set everything else with a regular powder, but for me, this is where I get oily. So I really wanted to make sure that I concentrate this extra powder only where I have really bad oil problems. So once the baking is done and you're ready to take it off on a nice fluffy brush, this one's a dome top from Morphe, it's the E41. Most of the time I'll use this. This is the Sephora number 30. It's more of a flat top, but you definitely want one of these brushes with a lot of surface area for when you're buffing out. So I'm gonna go with this one because I feel like I always use this one. Rule number one is you don't want to, take this powder off without another powder. If you just go in and start brushing this off, it's gonna leave that stark white color, and that's gonna cause flashback, and it's gonna cause really bright under eyes to look really fake. So I like extra coverage, so I'm gonna set the rest of the face with Studio Fix from MAC. This is a powder foundation. So rather than going in with, just a light powder, I'm going in with one that's a little heavier. And the reason for that is I do want to add a little more coverage. So you'll notice on the beard area, rather than, shaving every single day, I'll just take a powder foundation over the other foundation, and that will serve to almost blur out everything else. So it will help that I can go a little lighter on the liquid foundation, but still get the desired coverage. And I will take this down the neck because we do want to make sure that the neck matches the rest of the face, but I don't like taking liquids and creams down my neck because I find it just gets really weird throughout the day, and then it gets on my shirts and it's a whole mess. So I am starting predominantly in those areas where I didn't have the translucent powder, and then when I get there, I'll just dust through it, and it will still be brightened, but it'll be a little more seamless from where one color ends and one begins. And once you have most of it off, on a small tulipy brush or something a little bit more precise, I'll take a little bit more of that powder and I will just get very close to the eye just to make sure that I take off any residual powder because I don't want that white powder mixing in with everything else. And now the face is set. We have a little bit more definition because we've brightened, but we still want to take that contour a little bit more because we do want to emphasize some of that contrast. So my favorite contour palette is the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. I use this all the time. I feel like people are starting to get tired of how often I use it in my videos. And lately I have been using it with the brush that was designed for it. This is the Kat Von D Shade and Light brush. Normally, I don't think you need the brush that goes with the palette. I think it's kind of a hype thing and it's a way for brands to try and take your money. This one, I disagree. I think this is perfect and it works with this product so well. So starting with the shade side, I'm going to take the lightest of the contour powders and I'm just gonna take that along the cheekbone So you'll notice on my natural cheekbone, right here, you see that brightness, and then just above the ear, you'll see where my cheekbone starts to come in. You wanna take that and you wanna run that upwards towards the hairline on that side, and that's gonna create this definition of where the cheekbone is. Now, I like to take it a little bit higher because my cheekbone is not quite as high as I would like it to be, and that's the purpose of the contour, is this is going to allow me to kind of fake that. And the trick to making it not look really fake is that once I kind of get to this cheek area where the jaw naturally cuts in, I will take a little bit of contour down just to kind of hollow out the cheek a little bit more and make it look a little more realistic. And then what I'm gonna do, because I like where it is I'm gonna take a little bit of a slightly darker shade, which is in the middle, and I'm just going to really tight to the ear, just add that darkness up here where I want it to be a little more dramatic. And then on a clean fan brush, I'm just going to blend that together. And I'm just gonna repeat this on the other side and I'll be right back. And now at this point, you'll notice that this side is a little darker than this side. I definitely went a little more intense on this than I had wanted, so I held it just a little bit lighter of a hand on the other one. So to fix that, I just take that same setting powder and my fluffy brush, and I take a little bit of powder and I'll just dust that over the contour area. And I'll take a little on both sides, but a little more on this, and that'll kind of make them even out a little bit more. So I'll still have that contour and I'll still have the shape I want, but without it being a little too overdone. Now to clean up the contour while I'm doing brightening, I'm gonna take just a little more of that setting powder on the Beauty Blender, just like I did before. And I'm just gonna take that just under the jaw. And what that's gonna do is it's just gonna clean up the shape of the contour so it's not quite so harsh. I'm sorry, it's gonna be more harsh. And I just took that on there so that it's a little bit harsher because I didn't want it to be muddy and it really went down a little further than I wanted. So once that's where it is, I'm just going to dust that off, and you'll notice that just made it a little bit cleaner and a little bit more precise. Now, if you want something a little more natural, obviously you can stop there and you don't need to do that powder, but I like it just because it makes everything look a little bit more calculated. And then to contour the jaw, on that fan brush, taking a little bit of the darker shade. This is the only time I use the darker shade. You just want to start right where the chin ends, you know, where the double chin is, and you just want to start contouring here and then feather it out on the rest of the jawline. And now the trick to making this not look fake is you want to take it here and then you want to round it behind the ear. And what that's going to do, I'll start with the fan brush just to deposit some of the color, and then going in with that same shade brush from before, I'll take a little bit of the middle shade and I will just continue to place that and make sure I get under the ear, because that's what's gonna make it look like the jaw is just lifted as opposed to you just having a chin strap of color. And then with a very light hand, I don't really contour the temples too much just because I don't really need to, but just with a very light hand, I'm just gonna take a little bit of that contour just on the temples, very lightly. I'll go in a little heavier with bronzer later, but with the contour, that's all I do, and that just kind of makes everything evened out. Then to brighten, I'm gonna take the light side, and I'm gonna take, clearly I have colors I like more. I'm gonna take these bottom two shades on my light side, and I'm just going to take that under the eyes, just to add a little bit more brightness, and then wherever I put that concealer, just to help emphasize that lightness again, because we lost a little bit of that when we contoured and all that powder was everywhere. So we just wanted to redefine the cheekbones, redefine the nose, redefine the forehead. Now, my favorite type of brush for bronzer to use is a nice fluffy brush. Lately, I've been using something like this. I used to use, if you've been on my channel for a while, this, the R2 from Morphe, and it's a little bit sharper, so if you want to do a little bit of a wider bronzer, you can. But lately, I've been using something a little bit more fluffy, because I go a little more intense with the contour. I used to go less on the contour, more on the bronzer. So with the Hoola bronzer today, I'm just gonna take a little bit of this on the fluffy brush, and I'm just gonna take that on the perimeters of the face. Now for the bronzer, you wanna take it almost in the number 3 on each side of the face, because this is naturally where the sun will hit the face. So it gives you a little bit more of a natural glow, and you wanna make sure you get the perimeters a bit. And that's just gonna make everything look a little more sun-kissed and a little more natural. Lastly, for blush, I'm going to take the Moda Pro Crown Pointed Blush Brush that I always use and my NARS Orgasm. And I'm just going to lightly take that a little higher than where the bronzer was. And now the purpose of this and the placement is it's going to add a little bit of warmth and a little bit of that rosy undertone just to be a little more natural. And now once it's on, I will then go in with a fluffy brush and kind of just blend everything together a little bit, because I don't like when, you know, there's a stripe of red for your blush, and then the orangey brown for your bronzer, and then the dark brown for your contour. I kind of want it all to get married together and look very pretty, but it'll kind of gradient together as opposed to just being very harsh. Now, for the rest of the face, I'll usually finish highlight, I'll do the eyes, I'll do a lip, but as far as the base, this is really like it. This is everything you kind of need. So I'm gonna finish up the rest of the face off camera and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just finished a quick face and that is the finished video. So this has been my like base foundation 101 video. If you have any other specific questions of like intro videos you wanna see, make sure to comment down below with them. Please don't forget to subscribe. I do upload twice a week, so I would love for you to be able to see all the fun stuff I'm posting. And like this video if you found it helpful. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.